Majority at the National Assembly, Aden Duale, Member of Parliament for Samburu West, and Naisula Lesuda, Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboy, and also Member of Parliament for Kuresoi North, as well as John Mbadi, Member of Parliament and the leader of minority at the National Assembly, Karibu Sana. And we were getting to the conversation of what's making headlines. And if you look at the front page of the Standard, you'll see courts shut down as cash crisis bites. And this is stemming from what the National Treasury has done. It has slashed budgets for different government agencies, totaling to about 131 billion shillings. And the Judiciary has been affected with a reduction of 3 billion shillings. They had requested for 31 billion shillings, but Parliament awarded it 14 billion shillings. Now it has been slashed to, I believe, 11 billion shillings, and now they are saying that they are not able to continue with operations as normal. As far as yesterday, 15,000 cases had been suspended, saying that budgetary cuts. And I don't know what happens when you're passing these budgets. Let me start with you, Deputy Speaker, because you're also a Member of Parliament. Because now we saw the Judiciary requesting for a certain amount. It was awarded 14 billion shillings. Now the National Treasury is revising its revenue targets and now reducing it. What sort of consultation goes on so that you do not hamper essential services with some of these state agencies?
Of course, I would have been happier if you allowed Honorable Mbadi to answer that one, because he's in the relevant committees. But generally, there is always consultation in terms of trying to balance between what has been achieved in terms of collections and what can be used. So when it comes to Parliament, of course, we are given a basket where we are supposed to share. So you try as much as possible to share things within specific groupings that have been given. So basically, Parliament has done its best. And in terms of the issue of the amount being slashed, it's across board, including Parliament itself. It's an issue of our austerity.
How much did you lose?
Well, Mbadi would tell you that himself, because he's in that particular committee. But generally, that's what the position is. There is some attempt to reduce amounts that are being spent in government institutions.
And so, John Mbadi, so yes, you have reduced the amount. First of all, do you think the cutting down on the operations of the Judiciary is justified, or is it a way of arm twisting the executive?
Let me first of all say that budget making process is a very lengthy process, and it involves a lot of negotiations, discussions, and analysis of many other factors. So we actually went through that process, remember, and we allocated, or rather gave Judiciary 16.1 billion. It's not 14 billion. Remember again that this is not enough, and you'll agree with me that there's no department in this country, whether ministry, state agency, or even counties. We had a very long process, protracted negotiations with the Senate on how much to give the counties.
Right.
So no department in this country, no spending unit in this country is satisfied with the budgetary allocation. However, we have noted that Judiciary is a bit squeezed in terms of the delivery of their services, and they have expressed as much. However, I want to just correct that no budget has been slashed. What is happening is that the Treasury has indicated through a circular to ministries to rationalize their budget and try to curtail and cut on certain costs. They have recommended about 50% reduction of recurrent expenditure across the board. However, we just held a meeting last Friday with the Treasury and the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. And we were very clear to the Cabinet Secretary that he can only purport to dictate or direct the executive budget and not the budget of the Judiciary and budget of Parliament. And he agreed with us. He told us if that circular made an impression that he was cutting the budget of the Judiciary and Parliament, then he's sorry. He actually told the Budget Committee. So what we did was to call the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary and told her that we know that Judiciary is actually squeezed and we may not want to take more money from you. The supplementary budget is coming, but we would ask you, and in fact we gave 3 budget lines where we asked her to check if they could reduce. That is the hospitality line and also the foreign travels, and she also agreed that those are areas that she can check, and then acquisition of assets. New assets. So those are the only 3 areas.
So if you said that those are recommendations
let me just finish. And we actually agreed that it could be cut by not more than 400 million. So what I think this circular went earlier And this circular that the Judiciary wrote to various departments within the Judiciary went earlier when the blanket communication from the CS Treasury came. So let's not make it such a big crisis. The Judiciary has their budget as we approved it.
Right. So if you say that, but then again you see there are those notices, including the Environment Court, saying that it should not be sitting in Malindi, instead it should be sitting in Mombasa because of the budget cuts. I mean, who is fooling who?
No. I think, you know, we need to make this thing very, very clear. The moment we appropriate resources through the appropriation bill for the Judiciary, for Parliament, and for the National Executive, the Minister has no powers. He can only rationalize the budget of the two other arms of government through a supplementary budget, which he has not done. If at the moment we appropriate, he's supposed to upload the whole of that budget into the IFMI system of the Judiciary and the Parliament. So from where I sit, no money of Parliament has been reduced.
Right.
No coin of the Judiciary has been reduced until a supplementary budget estimate is submitted to my office. I table it and then it's referred to the Budget and Appropriation Committee. All these other things you're hearing is just shenanigans. The minister can only rationalize the budget of the National Executive.
Right.
Yes, he cannot touch the budget of the county governments. He cannot touch the budget of the two other arms of government. So all these memos, all these headlines from where we sit in Parliament is not here, neither there. So I think the Judiciary, if you ask me, the Judiciary is trying to play politics.
Right, and
they're trying to play politics and inciting the people of Kenya. And I've told this, the Chief Justice, who happened to sit next to me, and myself and the speakers, during the Mashujaa day, that unless a supplementary is brought to Parliament and the Budget and Appropriation Committee makes a report to the House, and the House decides, that is the only time their budget can be slashed. Slashing of budgets is normal. It's within law. Okay. The minister can rationalize either arm of government, but he must do it within the confines of the law, of the PFM Act and the Constitution. And how does he do that? By bringing a supplementary budget one for this financial year to the House. He's yet to do, and he's preparing it. So before that is done, Judiciary have their money, Parliament have their money. He has got at liberty to slash the
and I think also the notices are just preempting, you know, debate, or I think they're just making Kenyans aware and put pressure on Parliament for something that we're yet to receive. And anyway, just as Mbadi said, the notices we hope in future we'll see is on cut on travel, cut on hospitality, cut on for all of us, but not sitting in a certain area, because that is money should be going there. Not saying that the mobile courts in pastoral areas will not work. You know, it's almost inciting the public and ourselves as well. The notices should be, please reduce travels, hospitality and things like that. But when we put development, even if the supplementary there'll be cuts, it shouldn't be to service delivery. There are other areas that we can all look at, both executive, parliament, and also judiciary, to make sure that we deliver. And
let's get into the conversation of parliament and the people and the reason why we are here. And I want to stem from that, because now you say that it's how many months after the start of the new financial year? This is the 4th month, and already we are finding out that there will be revenue shortage in as far as what the Kenya Revenue Authority had targeted, and the Cabinet Secretary is already rationalizing that or informing the country about that. So what is this that happens? Because you prepare a budget for nearly 1 year preceding the reading. So what is this that happens that you're not able to tell with exactness how much you expect to receive in practical sense?
For 6 years, this country has largely been falling short of the projected revenue with a very big margin, over 100 billion every year. And we have engaged the Treasury a number of times and told them that either your projection is not correct, or you have a problem with collection of revenue, maybe challenges within KRA. And the Treasury has been insisting on inflating the figures of the revenue, projected revenue. And
to what end?
Pardon?
Why?
Well, that could be speculative. I think they could address maybe to reduce the amount of budget deficit in the eyes of the public. And because you see, the moment you have less revenue and you have a bigger expenditure, then definitely you'll have a bigger budget deficit. So the budget deficit has to be financed either through external loaning or internally. So maybe to reduce the amount of budget deficit. But the acting CS has come out clearly and said that we have been over-projecting revenue. And to that extent, I think I want to congratulate him because he has moved quickly within a very short time to indicate or give a new figure for estimated revenue so that we are dealing with a more realistic figure. We may still not even hit the projected revenue because, again, on ordinary revenue, they are only reducing it with 26 billion shillings. So to me, it's still a little higher. But again, also what we have seen is that in the first quarter of the year, we have seen about 17% increase in revenue collection from the previous year's same period. The last year, it was only about 4% increase. So probably something positive is happening in revenue collection. Let's hope that first, with improved or enhanced or more efficient revenue collection and reduced revenue projection, and three, austerity measures, we may be able to minimize or reduce the budget deficit.
You have two important institutions in Parliament. That is the Parliamentary Budget Office as well as the Budget and Appropriations Committee that he also sits in. So are you able to independently verify the figures that the National Treasury gives you, or you go with that as gospel truth?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Oh yes, I think the Parliament Budget Office is one of the key institutions that even in terms of staff, in terms of capacity, they are either equivalent or better than the National Treasury. So they give an independent view of the overall budget expenditure and revenue. I think, let me be a bit very, very honest. We have the people we had in the National Treasury for a long time were making us, they were living a lie, both in terms of our debt level, both in terms of our projections, and both in terms of what actual revenue we collect. And I think now the current team, which is the National Treasury, have realized that they must tell the country the truth. And that was the basis why we approved the change of the debt ratio from percentage to the GDP to actual numerical number. Because as Honorable Bombardier said, they were giving us revenue projections just for one reason, to reduce the deficit gap. That the country that we're borrowing only 500 billion. So were these projections achieved? No, over the last, I think, 8 years. Of course, right now, they're trying, and the economy, in terms of the small, medium sector, is not doing very, very well. I mean, there are a number of issues that is choking the economy. One of them is, and we've passed a law in Parliament, which now is being challenged in court. Kenya is not the growing economy, is not a cashless economy. This idea of subjecting every Kenyan who wants to withdraw $1 million shilling must give that source. It can only work in countries where the economy is cashless, but not here. So the small, medium term businesses are suffering. Why do I say so? This country, we have the Financial Reporting Center. Banks know their customers. So you're curtailing, and I think we put a law in place that, yes, we have no problem, but the central bank governor should bring regulations. He cannot just issue memos to banks. So up to now, in fact, as we speak, there's no law that he's using to stop, to implement that particular instruction. So when we amended the...
Despite the fact that the regulating agency...
Yes, the regulating agency must use the provisions of the law. So Parliament told him to bring a set of regulations so that the banks and the financial sector can work with that law. But anyway, somebody has gone to court.
All right.
I don't want to say it, but who sent that person? But most important.
I wish you could.
Yes, most important. The matter is in court, so I don't want to dwell much into it. But most important is that, we went into borrowing mainly from the commercial loans, which were charging between 8 and 13%, when we could go to multilateral loans that were charging between 1 to 2%. So between 2013 and now, we went to commercial loans. And I think this is the problem with the National Treasury, the men and women who are at the helm of the National Treasury. So right now, right now, as we open the debt ceiling, I think the most important thing they need to do is first to restructure our debt portfolio and pay these commercial loans, which we're paying dearly for.
And that's why there's a point I don't want us to lose, because you keep saying that the leadership that has been at the National Treasury for the past maybe 6 years has been living a lie. And you said that the PBO, the Parliament Budget Office, is very competent to understand what's happening in the economy. So why is Parliament not able to stand against the National Treasury and tell them to their face that you are lying and this is the actual test, because you are the oversight authority?
But the law is very clear. The National Treasury is only supposed to submit to Parliament quarterly a report on our debt status. So whether they borrow from commercial or they borrow from multilateral, that is a function of the National Executive.
So you have no role beyond knowing what you know to be true?
No, as we have to make sure the budget balances. Where they borrow from is a function of the executive. The legislature is to oversight.
But as Parliament, can you not question that?
No, yes, Parliament is to oversight. Is to oversight why we are not paying loans. But that's why these are the arguments that came out very, very clearly. Because public servants are supposed to be very honest. And I think it's the first time that the current leadership at the National Treasury came out and they said, listen, guys, I think we have not been telling the country the truth on our debt level, on our borrowing, and I think it's high time that Parliament, as a people representative, must help us. So even if we have even opened the ceiling, and we have changed from the percentage to the GDP, they will not still move until they restructure their debt portfolio, and they stop borrowing from the local banks or the foreign banks or from China or from all these guys who charge Exim Bank, who charge 13%, and go to multilateral, the World Bank, IMF, ADB. Yeah. So the functions are very, very clearly specified. Anyway, Honorable is also a member of
I also sit in Budget Committee, and I wanted to say, and I think the minority leader will agree, that we're actually, as Parliament, we have indicated. Because the Budget Office has always been giving us the report, the true report, and it is always attached when the chair tables our report, the estimates and everything. And we have been consistent on saying there are some things that we have to look at: the debt issue, we have to look at our projections, our revenues, all those things. If you look keenly on what has been tabled in Parliament, ours is to give the opinion, and the Treasury then execute and implement, and later we will oversight what they have done. So when I think about some of the issues that we have continuously discussed at the committee level, we are finally seeing like the Budget Office has actually been right on a number of issues.
Maybe just
allow me not to take your view. We'll do that when you come back from the break. You can text us your views on 22422. You can tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag to use is daybreak. When you come back, we'll be taking a look at what Kenyans feel about the operations or the activity of Parliament. They don't have very kind words for you, but you're here. You'll explain why that is the case, because this is Parliament and the people. Back in a moment.